My name is Trent Richardson from Pensacola, Florida, and I'm former running back from the University of Alabama.
The tight end stacked. Underwood, the lead blocker. Trent goes to the top. Touchdown, Alabama.
I'm the runner of the family. Yeah. My brother, I got one brother 6'6", my dad was 6'7".
Richardson off to the races and gone. Touchdown, Alabama.
Here now is A.J. looking near side, wide open Trent. He'll stop.
My other brother 6'3", and so, everybody around me was giants, and I'm the only one that really played offense for everybody else played defense, and so it worked out for me. And so, being the small guy in the house and having to fight against everybody, like it kind of made me a giant inside. And so, being scared, being petrified of the moment, I never shaded away from that. I always liked it at the moment and let everybody know, like I'll let them know, like, hey, I'm getting the ball first play of the game, I'm running up your throat. Like, that's just me, and I didn't talk mess on the field, I just let them know. Man, just don't make me mad. It's gonna be a long day for you. Man, you walk through the locker room, the weight room, you just see legacy. Like, you think about, all the stuff we went through for these kids. They can have all this, new equipment and stuff like that, stuff that we wish we could have had, and somebody had to go through it to get there, and somebody had to go through it, to, for we can get what we had. And so being a part of that, man, is beautiful, man. Yeah, it was crazy because, growing up in a household of being the youngest, and your mom raised 11 or 13 kids, and only 3 of them was hers. It was different, so you can imagine, when it comes to eating dinner, every man for themselves in there, right? You don't get your plate while you can, you might not eat that night. And so, man, just, looking at where I came from, like I didn't want to go back to it. I first got my first bed, my first room when I was here. I had kids in high school, and so for me, it was hard for me in recruiting to tell coaches like, I got kids, because I didn't want them to think I was just gonna be out here making babies and stuff like that. But man, I tell you what, the best thing that ever happened to me was having my baby, my oldest daughter, Talia, she was always on my wristbands when I played, and Vera was too.
With your daughter just kind of walking in right now, man, just on the spot, like what are some of those emotions and kind of that full circle moment? She's gracing the same halls that you did.
Yeah, it's crazy seeing it, man, because of course they got way more than what we had. But just trying to give her the ins and the outs of what Tuscaloosa is about. Time of the year, how stuff gonna change. It ain't that much party in this, after the football season. Or just teaching her and stuff like that. My people, my friends and stuff that I made around here. They look out for her, make sure she got something to eat and stuff like that, and just make sure that they on her tail. And so just seeing her. Just walk around here, just seeing her going to my alma mater. I worked everything I could to make sure that she could be able to walk a place like this and, and be proud that her dad, did leave a legacy. And now she's a legacy and she's doing it in a different way. My daughter came here on a full education scholarship that she got. It was nothing that I did, man. And so for me, that's the biggest thing ever. But having her, when I did have her at that age, it changed my life, because if not, like I said, like I'd probably been dead somewhere or, probably in prison. It might be 2 of us that used to hang around out of like a group of 10 or 5 or 6 or 7 that's just still out here, that's alive and, that's free. And so for me, man, like I had to understand at an early age, and it was a situation where I got shot at with my partners, and it had nothing to do with me. And I had to be like, man, you know what? I got a child and I got one on the way, and I got an opportunity, man, to go make my life, my family life different by playing ball.
And Richardson breaks free on the sideline, end zone, finally a touchdown between these two.
Marcel Dares, Terrence Cody. I think the hardest I'd ever been hit was in practice. And it was on a power play, and I cut back, and one thing you're not supposed to do on power was cut back. On power, I cut back. Terrence came and hit me with a stomach, and it was just one of those moments where I was seeing tweeted birds and all type of lights and stars. He looked at me and said, 3 yards. I said, I think I'm good. Our practice was way harder than the games, and so it made the games easy. And people would come from all around the world, scouts and different colleges. I remember Boise State coming here and watching us all the time. I can remember Oklahoma coming and watching us, just to see, what we was doing, how we was doing, how was our practices, how prepared we was to go to the next level. And why was the game so easy for us? Like what we did at practice, it translated to the game. And we would always say on game day, man, it's time to cash a check. You know, we worked all week, you know, for this check, and now it's time to cash it. And so for us, man, game day for us was, I ain't gonna say a walk in the park, but it was one of those things to where it's like, you know, we won that game Monday. We won that game Tuesday. We won that game Wednesday. By the time Thursday and Friday hit, you know, we was already prepared to, you know, to go into battle with anything and everything. My first touchdown at Bama, like I stopped running like 5 yards before the end zone because I thought I scored. And so if you go back and find the film, I kind of slowed down and I see everybody instead of kind of running, I see the crowd like, hey. But it was one of those things like I thought I scored. I can remember my reaction, everything I did the week, and I got too up in the meeting because I did this and everybody was like, what is that? You know, coach kept reminding it back and, you know, they was laughing at me. But, man, the atmosphere had always been crazy. I can remember getting recruited and walking into the stadium and the whole stadium chanting my name. And it was one of those moments to where it's like, this is how life is going to be for me here. And it was like, yeah, like this is what it is. First time my mom came and visit here, she almost started fighting because she didn't understand how the fans was and how nice they was and, you know, how engaged they was in recruiting, and they knew who I was, her son from Pensacola, Florida, coming from nothing. You know, they wanted my autograph. My mom didn't understand that. She was like, you want what? You want Trenton to sign? She called me Trenton. You want Trenton to sign what? And so, you know, it was one of those things where she was trying to protect the baby because she didn't know. You got a whole bunch of people running up to her son. She didn't know what was going on. And so, you know, my mom being a protector and, you know, being a single parent, man, her whole life, you know, she protecting her baby, and they just want to invite us to some barbecue and get an autograph.
Takes the handoff again, breaks 3 tackles, gets away, cuts back, stays on his feet. What a move, shake it, bake it, and he makes it. Touchdown.
They take us in, man. It's a brotherhood. It's different. I tell people this all the time, man. You play at Bama, it's almost like you being able to go play at Harvard or, you know, you having a Yale degree because it's almost just as good as anywhere else. You know, when you're talking about, you know, the following and the fan base and talking about the guys that, you know, that live this stuff, right? You got guys that's, you know, that played at Bama that's, you know, on top of the world. That's some of the stuff that they're in. And so to even just have a brotherhood, man, you got guys like Mark that reached out to me for my podcast. It's just a brotherhood, man. Like, man, we look out for each other. Even if something going on, you know, with one of our kids or our family, or when I was in the league, you know, when I would see my guys, you know, first thing I would do is, you know, I don't care who it is over there, but when I see my brothers, I'm going to speak to them and I'm going to, you know, shake their hand. I'm gonna go hug them. I'm gonna go love on them because that's what we did, man. I've been with those guys, you know, sweat, blood, and tears, and so. But being on the other side for these guys who don't understand, like, man, it's more than just football. It's a brotherhood that can't be broken. The legacy to the league and getting there, man, you'll never find it anywhere else. And, you know, it's a lot of great colleges out there. It's a lot of great, you know, programs out there. But, man, it's something different. I know we say in the SEC is different, but it's something different about Bama. And it's hard to just explain it. You got to see it for yourself. And, you know, guys that's been around the program, that's been a part of it, that bleeds this stuff, like they know, they get it. But, you know, even with the NFL, man, we got, 7 guys in the Super Bowl right now. And all the guys are not starters, but they're part of the program. And they're part of that team. If I was to sum it up, man, it's hard to just say I'm just one person because I wear so many different suits, right? I'm a father. I've been that since day one. So I was 14, 15 years old, and retired football player, coaching, being able to, you know, to help kids out in the community, being a, you know, entrepreneur with, you know, having different businesses and stuff like that, man. And so we got the podcast called The Dynasty. It's me, AJ McCarron, and Chris Stewart, and we on there, you know, having fun all the time, and, you know, trying to put out, you know, good information and, you know, and spread the love, man, for real. And always trying to back our boys. It's just a lot of different masks I wear, a lot of different suits I wear. And so, man, it's just hard to sum it up in one, but at the end of the day, man, when people think about me, I just want them to think that, you know, I'm just a great dad, you know, a guy that, you know, that gets it and just trying to stay out the way. I'm Trent Richardson, former running back from the University of Alabama from Pensacola, Florida. And I'm one of the hardest working running backs ever. One of the ones that you're not gonna be able to take down, and the first dope walk winner ever, and this is who I am.